Welcome to 52 Authors, 52 Weeks, Season 3. I'm Dr. Lisa L. Campbell, the Growth Motivator. Each week, I sit down with a different author to explore what lies behind the pages. Growth, purpose, finding your voice. Enjoy today's episode. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another amazing episode of 52 Authors, 52 Weeks. Today, I am joined by author Keana Shatteen, who is the author of Healing Out Loud. Reclaim your power, your voice, your purpose. I said the wrong order, but it's your voice, power, and purpose. Welcome to the show, Keana.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Lisa, for having me.
So before we get into a little bit about the book, why don't you tell our listening, viewing audience about who you are outside of the author?
Outside of the author, I am Keana Shatteen. I'm an emotional literacy consultant as well as a transformational speaker. And what that basically means is I teach people how to identify, understand, communicate with their emotions. Because what I've learned in my journey in life and everything I endured, and plus what I mentioned in the book, is that majority of us are disconnected from ourselves, meaning our emotions. And I learned that God communicates through us with our emotions. So my message and mission now is to educate the collective, students, adults, on how to connect and identify with their emotions so that they lead effective lives, they communicate better, they show up better in their relationships, at work, in the culture overall. So that's what I do.
I love that. So when you talk about the emotional aspects, that really touched the nerve with me, but we don't have time to talk about that today. But so thank you for the introduction. And I think before we get into the book, everybody has a story about why they wrote their particular book. There are some people who are just writing books just to say they wrote a book. But for many of us, especially in the space that we operate in, there is a why behind the book. So what's your why behind your book?
I love that question. I love that question so much. That is the reason why I get out of bed every day. My why is to save lives. It's to touch as many people as possible with my words, with my truth, because I'm a survivor of suicide, of a lot of things that we don't typically talk about. So my mission and purpose in doing this and writing my book is to touch souls and to hopefully save lives.
Well, I hope through today's episode that you are able to touch some lives. And the topics, and I should just mention this for our listening, viewing audience, we may touch upon some topics today that we'll dip our toe just a little bit into different situations that may have occurred in your life, my life. And so for our listening, viewing audience, if you hear something that makes you uncomfortable, please always know that there is help available. You don't have to navigate whatever situation that you're going through alone. We are both living witnesses that you can come out on the other side of it, but you have to tap into some support.
Yes, thank you. Absolutely. That is the purpose. That is the ultimate message behind it.
Yes, I love it. I love reclaim your voice, power, and purpose. That's kind of like reclaiming is something that a lot of people, when you look at them, you're like, oh, you need to reclaim your stuff, girl or guy, because
That's
unfortunately, the men, they don't want to tap into the emotional part, which is causing them to do some stuff that is another story for another day. They need their own book because theirs would be like an Encyclopedia Britannica volumes 1, 2, and 3.
I'm working on that now, actually. The whole entire emotional encyclopedia, because we need more tools and resources. But you're right, though, Dr. Campbell, Dr. Lisa. That is another area that men struggle with their emotions as well. A lot of people do. And when people see my book, they see a woman, of course, they see the femininity. But I tell people what I talk about and what I specialize in doesn't have a gender, it doesn't have a race, it doesn't have a face, because we all have emotions, hearts, souls. And when the head and the heart are disconnected, that creates mental overwhelm, distress, chaos. So at the end of the day, we all need that same emotional literacy, that same support, that same awareness, and the same understanding, and knowing that we are not alone. But it takes us being courageous enough to speak up, to speak our truth, and most importantly, advocate for ourselves, because we tend to self abandon. And then that's when the disconnection sets in. And now we're not even able to express what we feel and how we need to be supported and how to ask for the support.
Something that just came to me. This is something that I say quite often. When you're hurting, those that are around you actually hurt too, because depending on who you are, they may be hesitant to try to offer that support to you. So just know, when you are hurting, you're not hurting alone. People who are around you, they can see it and feel it, and they don't want you to go through life like that.
They don't. They absolutely don't. I even talked about that in my book, just from the perspective of those that were around me, my family, my friends, how my experience affected them. Not only how it affected them, but how it made me look at myself, because I thought I was creating more turmoil, more overwhelm for them. So I even talk about how to support somebody in that space, because it takes a village. We're all in this together.
Hmm. I don't know why we think we have to navigate life alone.
I know, isn't it? Well, I know why. I know why, but now we have to unlearn this, because
Mm.
that's just the way it's been since the beginning of time, right? Since we've been in this country as African Americans, we've always had to survive in silence. That goes back to slavery, but we have just been so conditioned to continue to live that way that we pass down that generational story. And I'm here to break that story and say, no, it's time to speak out loud. Nothing changes until somebody changes it, right? So how do we make sure that our kids, I have an 18-year-old, I want to make sure he survives. I want his children, his children's children. I want to make sure that they have everything they need that I did not have, that my mother didn't have, my grandmother didn't have. So let's create a new way, because we don't have to do this alone anymore. We don't have to sit in silence. We don't.
I love that. We are literally, I feel like, the first generation that has all the tools to
Mm-hmm.
do the work.
Yes.
And I'm just going to say me, Lisa.
Okay.
I feel it's selfish that you have all of these tools and you don't get the help that you need when our parents and grandparents didn't have it. We
Right.
have it at our fingertips, yet we allow whatever our stuff is to hold us hostage for decades.
For decades. Yes.
Oh
Yes.
my gosh. We got to stop that. So listen, let's get into a couple of the themes from the book. And again, everybody, you got to get your own copy.
Yes.
So in the book, you talk about the breaking point that forced you to seek emotional clarity. Tell us about that.
My breaking point was me waking up in the hospital after a suicide attempt and realizing that I survived it. But honestly, in that moment, I wasn't sure if I was happy about that, if I was disappointed. I had an overwhelm of emotions. And what I thought was the end for me was actually the beginning. Because if I hadn't gone to that point, if I hadn't got to rock bottom, I wouldn't be here today. There wouldn't even be a story of healing if I had not hit that moment. And it was that moment of reckoning that God basically made me sit in my emotions and everything that I had been trying to outrun for years. And this is what I tell people: you cannot outrun yourself, especially in 2026, because the emotion, the overwhelm, everything just catches up with you. And that's what happened for me. And at that point, I had no other way to go except up. I mean, I could have stayed there, and I thought I wanted to. For a little while, I did. There was moments where I was like, I don't want to do this. I'm ready to give up. I don't have anything to fight for, even though I have a son. But at that time, I didn't know that. I didn't see the purpose in living for him until I hit the breaking point.
Wow. And you know what? When you said you can't outrun yourself, I was just sitting here in my head thinking, how many people try to outrun themselves?
All day, every day.
You know what? And I think, I mean, you talk about this in the book, for women who are high functioning. You talk about something that's actually something that I actually talk about in my next book, is that we don't have a name for what we're carrying. We just kind of go through life
Yes.
how we've been taught, how mama and them taught us how to
right.
do it. That's how we do it.
That's it. Just be strong. Just be strong. That's all we know.
Be strong. And I don't know how old you are, but there was a commercial in the
Okay.
80s that said, never let them see you sweat.
Oh, there we go. That part.
And I think many of us saw that commercial and was like,
We ran
I'm
with
gonna
it.
keep going, even if it kills me. I'm gonna
Yes.
reach my goal.
That's it. That's it. That's exactly what we were taught. And that's the thing that we have to change. We can no longer ignore our bodies and souls because it's all interconnected. So how can I show up and be a high performing functional woman at work when the internal me, the insides of me are falling apart? I am disconnected. So I can't give you 100% of me. I can't even give me 100%. And that was one of the things that I even kind of mentioned a little bit in my book, but even professionally, why I decided to leave corporate after working in HR, because I realized I was not fulfilling my purpose, nor were we serving a purpose for our employees, because we're not taking care of this employee, the whole person. And being a Black high functioning woman in corporate, it became draining. It was very overwhelming. So that's absolutely our struggle. And we don't let them see us sweat. We can't even show emotion at work, but make it make sense. We're human beings. We are supposed to have emotions. So how can we not allow us to have emotions at work? The more we allow our employees to be safe, feel comfortable, is the more they're able to show up, produce, and be productive. And that was the disconnect. And that's what I teach people now. This is why I keep saying we got to get honest and come back to ourselves.
Healing out loud. Now, we're here to talk about your book but you mentioned this, so I have to just share this, just in case somebody's listening. There is an attorney, local to Chicago, Shakita Hall Jackson. She's a discrimination attorney, and she talks a lot about how women are going to work every day being disrespected, devalued, and we think we don't have a way out of being that corporate hero. Now, for some of us, like the two of us, we're like, yeah, corporate, no, we're not doing that. But there are some people, that's their thing. They're going to do that till they retire. Yes. And I'm all for you still continuing to work in corporate America, but I want you to feel good about doing it, and not, let's just be honest, you pulling up to your job crying on the way to work, or you sitting at your computer crying before you turn on the Teams. That's not sustainable. Your body is literally keeping the score for everything that's happening. And at some point, you are going to crash.
You will. You will hit that rock bottom. That was me in 2019. And I was working in HR, high functioning, working in a hospital as a generalist. And I'm trying to handle employee relations, and I can't even handle what's going on at home. My marriage is falling apart, and I'm trying to put up this front like I'm okay because I got to be a mother and I got to be an employee and I got to pour into these people at work. But who's pouring into me? Because right now I am depleted and I am drained, and I could not tell anybody.
So what you're saying is, because some people, they didn't really hear what you were saying. So you were showing up to work, looking good on the outside, looking good from head to toe. But inside, you literally were falling apart.
Yes, crumbling. In
So
silence.
in in silence.
In silence.
So let's shift gears a little bit and wait, because something just caught my eye in the book. And I have to read this. This is your book, but I got to read it because
Go ahead.
people need to hear this. Emotionally, I had tried to bury my grief under layers of distraction,
Mm,
hoping that new experiences would eventually erase the pain.
yes.
That's deep. That it
It's
would
true.
eventually just go away.
And it will go away. That's what we think. But
And
when it's a wound, and if you're not tending to it, what happens? It just festers. Eventually, it's going to get infected. You're eventually going to have to acknowledge it. And emotional wounds are no different than physical wounds. And that's what I was trying to do. Absolutely. Most of us try to distract ourselves, whether that's work, shopping, or food, alcohol, sex, anything to escape what we're feeling. As long as I don't have to be still and sit in my feelings and emotion, then I think I'm okay because I can just survive this way. And that was the
Mhm.
story I told myself.
The story you told yourself
That's
while
the
you was
story I
trying to
told myself.
outrun yourself.
Yes, yes. Oof. Yes.
That's emotionally exhausting.
It's so exhausting, so overwhelming.
Mm. So let's shift gears to an area that many people, unfortunately, have had to experience, and we're not going to tell them everything because it's in this book. Let me just tell you, make sure they can see it. That light always won't let me be great. Okay,
It'd be great. I have a copy.
so let's talk about
There we go.
yes. So let's talk about confusing love with endurance.
Listen, Dr. Lisa, one of my biggest struggles as a woman was trying to understand how do I love and connect and show up in relationships, right? And what I talk about in the book kind of shows a trajectory of how I was in relationships, certain relationship dynamics. And what I didn't realize is that what I had endured as early as 16 still affected the way I showed up as a woman and as a wife in my 20s and 30s because I didn't understand what healthy love and connection looked like. I didn't understand what a healthy marriage looked like. I didn't even understand my role as a woman. What does that look like as a wife? And I didn't know how to say this is too much for me because I was just enduring. I'm just trying to make this work, even though I'm not okay. But I'm married. We have the house, we have the son, we have the perfect life, is what I'm telling myself. So I'm just enduring this. But I am disconnected. I am so unhappy. And I can't tell my husband. I tried to tell my friends. They're all like, well, what you complaining about? He got you a house. You got the perfect husband. On the outside, I looked like I was living the perfect life. So I kept enduring that. But I'm slowly losing me over time. And I did things that not only disrespected my marriage, it just disrespected myself because I kept trying to ignore this. I kept trying to endure. And when I tell you, I thought I can live like that in that survival state, this is how I was going to survive marriage, is what I told myself. Do you hear what I said?
Survive
Survive
marriage.
marriage.
Survive marriage.
That's what it felt like. I was surviving a marriage, and marriage should never feel like that because marriage should not feel like a struggle. And if it does, there is something that needs to be addressed. And I did not. I did not allow myself to address it until I hit my breaking point.
And so many people experience that. You know, when I think about my parents who got divorced, when I think about my grandparents who were married for 75 years, I often wonder, and my grandparents are deceased now, like, were they really happy for the 70 something years? Or was it something that they did because they grew up in a time where maybe divorce was frowned upon, especially in the church? And I hate to say this, but it's so many things that we learn about in church that are holding us back because
Thank you.
we don't want to dishonor the church or blah, 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 blah. Just all the cliche things that,
Right.
right, have been embedded in our head. But you talk about this in chapter 7, and don't ask me why, but every book that I put my hands on, I go to chapter 7 because 7 is my favorite number. But
I
7
love that.
also be having some juicy stuff in
I
chapter
love
7.
it.
I don't know if that's just the way the world aligns, but chapter 7 is my jam because you talk about new beginnings and you say, and I quote, filing for divorce was an act of bravery. It was me standing up for myself, acknowledging that I deserved more than a life of emotional neglect and pain. So, talk to us about how you eventually moved from surviving to reconstructing your whole life.
That is a great question. I love that. First of all, it was not easy. And what I call this chapter 7, I would call the self-trust phase, because now I had to learn how to trust myself because I had been ignoring myself for so long, basically all my life. I ignored my feelings. I ignored my emotions. I didn't pay attention to my patterns. So now that I filed for divorce, guess what? This is Keana starting a new chapter. What does Keana's life look like now? As a newly single woman, you get to design what this part of your life looks like from a different space than you were in when you got married. What was that, 6 years prior? So now let's figure this out. I had to sit in my emotions, and this happened during the pandemic when everybody had to be still. So I didn't have a choice. God said, sit down. And what did I do? I figured it out. I took things one day at a time, and I started unpacking what was I experiencing? Why was I feeling this way? Because I had already survived the suicide, but you don't just wake up and go back to living life normally. No, it didn't work like that. I'm still confused. I'm still struggling. I'm still trying to manage. I ended a marriage, and now this is a new beginning, but it still is unfamiliar because I've been used to living this life for so long. And like anything, it takes practice. You have to keep doing it. You have to integrate it. And then it just became my new normal. It just felt like this is how life was supposed to be. I found me, most importantly, and I discovered what I liked. I didn't know who I was outside of a relationship because I had been with that person that I married for 15 years. I met him in college. I was 35 when I had my attempt. That's all I had ever known. I did not know who I was as a woman, as a person, outside of being somebody's partner and mother. I had no idea who I was. So that was the self-trust rediscovery phase. That's when I learned how to reclaim my voice. And eventually I gained my power.
Well, let me just give a spoiler alert for the book because I need the girls to go and get this book because you need to have a party. I'm gonna tell you the party that you're gonna have. This party is gonna be the vision board for your new chapter party.
Yes.
And you know, because everybody having all these themed events. And why I think this is so important. We all go through transitions in life, right? And there's this author who wrote a book about transitions, Dr. William Bridges. And in the book, he talks about there's 3 phases to the transition, right? So the first phase is when you finally close the door. Yes. The second phase is when you're in that middle, right? Where you close the door. I forgot what he calls it, but I call it like the messy middle where, you know, you're trying to navigate your new normal. But then the third phase is that you're walking in alignment with what you're supposed to be doing. And the vision board, again, girls, y'all got to get your own copy of the book so you can see it in the chapter, and then you can have your theme party. But having that vision board for your new chapter, I believe, requires you to have community. You need to have support system. Now, let me just say this. You got to be careful about your support system because sometimes it's the wrong people. Right. You got to do a vibe check to make sure that it's the right crew. But you need this activity. You need the book. You need this activity because you need the book to see the activity. You
That's
can't see
true.
the activity without the
Not
book.
the book.
But this activity helps you visualize your future and keeps you focused on your personal goals for growth and healing,
Yeah,
which to me is something that's ongoing because there's always going to be something that you need to heal from.
absolutely. As long as you're living, you're healing.
So listen, we are almost out of time, but I would love to know what's next. This episode, as all of our episodes are pre-recorded, so by the time your episode airs, this could be your accountability partner for something you said you were going to do, and when the episode airs, you're like, "Oh, I did say I was going to do that, and I did it."
Manifestation.
Yes.
Yes, I love that. So probably by the time this episode airs, I know my audiobook for Healing Out Loud, Reclaim Your Voice, Power, and Purpose will be out, finalizing it now. I will be speaking at the Domestic Violence Symposium in Governor State this Saturday, March 28th, but I'll also be speaking in April at the University of Wisconsin. And I will be speaking at the Administrative Assistance Week event, and I will also be doing a workshop with District 133, which is the Riverdale School District, on May 1st, as well as speaking at Park Forest Library on May 8th. So I have a lot of things coming up, basically. What I would tell my soulmates to do is subscribe on my website at IamKeanashatteen.com so that you can follow me, see what I'm working on, and also invite me out to come speak. I do this virtually. I do a one-on-one, as well as unpack your actual healing path, because the audiobook is an entry to what the work really is that I do one-on-one with people. So that's what I have going on as of today. But I know that by the time this airs, it'll probably be 5 more things on my plate. And I'm grateful for that. So
I love that. So you're continuing on your own journey, healing out loud, and you're not just talking about it, but you actually are living it. And I believe the more we speak, the more we write, the healing process just it gets a little lighter, right? And then when you get something new that pops in your life, you have the tools to help you bounce back a little better.
That's it. That's all. I
Mhm.
teach people how to become their own medicine. This is what I do in real time. I've learned how to do this so much that now when I go through my own struggles, I utilize my real actual heal method for myself to help me unpack things. And I try to tell people I'm not a therapist, but what I do as a emotional literacy consultant and coach is hold the mirror up to you so that you can see your own wounds and figure out how to fix them and move forward so that you don't continue to live, make the same mistakes, the same choices, the same patterns. Because I'm not concerned about who hurt you, who harmed you, because we can't undo our past. But we can heal in the present so that our future self is worthy, feeling abundant, feeling free, no longer carrying emotional and mental chaos, overwhelm, right? And for me, this is my purpose. That's why it's Healing Out Loud, Reclaim Your Voice, Power, and Purpose, because it happened like that for me in that order. It helped me see that that was the reason why I went through this, not to hide it, but to share my story to inspire somebody else to keep
I
going.
love that. I love that. So I want to thank you so much, number one, for being vulnerable enough to tell your story. I always say for each one of us that is telling our story, there are thousands of others who haven't told their story and they need us to
Yes.
help guide them to the light, right? On the
Yes.
other side of whatever that thing is that's causing you to be paralyzed.
Right. Oof.
And it's a difficult place to be in, but there's definitely help. So I applaud you for healing out loud and helping others on their journey. Thank you so much for stopping by 52 Authors,
Yeah.
52 Weeks. Is there any final word that you want to say to our listening, viewing audience?
Yes, I would like to say first, thank you, Dr. Lisa, for allowing me to be here. But for the listening audience, if you are struggling through something right now, I just want you to ask yourself, what is this costing you? And what are you minimizing right now that you know you need to give voice to? And that's it. That's it with that.
I love that. Well, that's a great place to end. Everyone, thank you so much for listening to another amazing episode of 52 Authors, 52 Weeks. I was just in the Chicagoland area in my hometown chatting with Keana Shatteen, author of Healing Out Loud, Reclaim Your Voice, Power, and Purpose.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You've just experienced another conversation from 52 Authors, 52 Weeks, Season 3. The conversation may pause here, but the growth continues. I'm Dr. Lisa L. Campbell, the Growth Motivator, and I'll see you next week.